The legend is back. Who doesn't know Michael Myers? The legendary cold-blooded serial killer who is now back again to avenge. Can he be defeated? Has his revenge been avenged? Spoilers ahead, watch out and be prepared. Set a few minutes after the previous film, namely Halloween, 2018, Michael Myers is actually not dead, even though Laurie Strode has locked fire in a bunker in his basement. Michael is back on the hunt for Laurie and anyone who gets in his way. Laurie, who was dying from a knife cut by Michael, was rushed to the hospital along with her daughter, Karen, and granddaughter Allison. On the other hand, Halloween night in the city of Haddonfield was again in chaos, thanks to the rise of Michael. This story begins with a flashback scene, when on October 31, 1978, Deputy Frank Hawkins accidentally shoots his partner dead, while trying to save him from Michael Myers, the one holding him. He also prevents Dr. Samuel Loomis from executing Michael. 40 years later, on October 31, 2018, after being stabbed and left to die by Dr. Ranbir Sartain, Hawkins is found by Cameron Elam, who calls an ambulance. Hawkins regrets not allowing Michael's execution and vows to kill him. Full of anger, hatred and revenge, Michael began to terrorize and take revenge one by one against the citizens of Haddonfield. Meanwhile, Tommy Doyle celebrates the 40th anniversary of Michael's imprisonment along with fellow survivors Marion Chambers, Lindsay Wallace, and Cameron's father, Lonnie Elam, all having encountered Michael in 1978. Firefighters responding to Laurie Strode's burning house unknowingly release Michael, who slaughters them with their own equipment. Michael managed to escape and brutally massacred everyone he met. If you think with common sense, everything that Michael did was beyond our understanding as humans, you could say that Michael had gone mad and couldn't use his common sense anymore. Meanwhile, the people of Haddonfield are celebrating Halloween night. They are wrapped up in various spooky costumes. One by one the residents began to share their stories or experiences when they were young, but at the same time, they did not realize that Michael was out there in action. Laurie, her daughter Karen, and her granddaughter Allison are taken to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, where Laurie undergoes emergency surgery, and she also loses a lot of blood from the dagger wound she suffered, as Michael murders Laurie's neighbors before making his way back to Haddonfield. Apparently Michael almost killed him, but Laurie managed to survive despite having to endure serious injuries. Karen, whose hands are covered in blood, begins to wash and clean herself at the hospital, where her mother is being treated. The team of doctors began to operate on Laurie, while Karen and her daughter Allison could only pray and hope that their mother and grandmother would both be successful and recover as usual. The doctor said that the operation would take quite a while because the incision wound in Laurie's stomach was quite large. Karen and Allison encouraged each other that things would be fine. They had been devastated by the death of Ray Nelson, Karen's husband and also Allison's father, who was brutally murdered by Michael Myers. Meanwhile, in another place, a husband and wife are chatting, where the wife is playing with a drone in her house without them realizing that Michael is heading there. When Michael manages to sneak into the house, and prepares to kill them both. The husband told the wife to call the police, but suddenly he was brutally attacked by Michael to death and eventually bleeds to death. Meanwhile, the wife tried to stop Michael by hitting him with a bottle, but instead she was killed by Michael by sticking a neon light shard into her neck, which eventually died. Not only that, to make sure the husband and wife were dead, Michael stabbed the husband many times and the wife could only watch it with resignation, which in the end she died from the severe wound on her neck. The situation in the city became increasingly chaotic. The police came to the scene to investigate the case. Michael kills people very viciously. He has dark eyes, so he doesn't care anymore who he kills, no matter whether he knows or not the prospective person he will kill. Meanwhile, news about the bus accident that the prisoners were traveling in was being broadcast on TV the other day, including the 2 inmates who managed to escape. Then the authorities advised residents to stay at home, unless there was an urgent need to go out. Realizing this, the people who were partying dispersed. A couple was about to become the next victim by Michael. When they were about to go home, the man came back into the bar because he had missed something at the bar, while the woman went first to the car. How shocked the woman was, when she saw someone who she thought was Michael Myers, sitting in the back seat. Suddenly the woman ran to the bar to catch up with her lover. When residents flocked to the car to surround Michael Myers, suddenly that car went off the road and hit a building that stopped the car. When approached, it turned out that the driver had fled, leaving a riddle for the residents. Elsewhere, a couple living in Michael Myers' former home were celebrating Halloween night alone. They didn't realize that Michael was on their way, but before that, they were surprised by the behavior of a teenager wearing a costume and scaring them. To frighten the teenager, they recounted that once, when Michael Myers was still living in the house, he killed his sister who was on the top floor of the house. Hearing the story, the teenagers fled in fear, and they went back into the house. Tommy, Marion, Lindsay, and Lonnie learn of Michael's killing spree through a wireless emergency alert. Bar patron Vanessa supposedly encounters Michael in her car, but the driver crashes and escapes unnoticed. Tommy forms a mob of vengeful Haddonfield residents to hunt down and kill Michael. Meanwhile at the hospital, several police officers came to ask Allison and Karen some questions about the disaster that was befalling her. One of the detectives informs Karen that Michael Myers is still alive and currently wandering the streets of Haddonfield. Karen is shocked when the detective informed that Michael is still alive, and withholds that information from Laurie to allow her to recover. Allison reconciles with Cameron, her ex-boyfriend, and she joins Tommy's mob to avenge her own father's death. Laurie and Hawkins both awaken in the same room and reminisce about their former relationship.
Laurie.
Nurse, will you do me a favor? Help out my friend here. Make it a double.
Allison reunites with her boyfriend. They join forces with other citizens to devise a plan on how to defeat Michael Myers. The citizens are gathered, and will attack Michael Myers tonight. It turned out that there were still residents who played outside at night. Then they told the people to go home, because the situation and conditions outside were in danger. Michael suddenly appeared and attacked them casually. Michael kills one by one the residents he meets in a very vile way. But there is a woman who managed to survive Michael's pursuit and hide under a bridge. At the hospital, Karen still hasn't told Laurie that Michael is alive and is now terrorizing residents, because Laurie's health condition is still unstable. But Laurie seems suspicious that things weren't going well. Residents continued the ambush and attack on Michael Myers. They were shocked by a very sad sight when several bodies were found lying in a park. Meanwhile, the situation at the hospital was getting worse. The residents gathered there because they were frightened by Michael Myers. One thing is for sure, that the situation out there is no longer safe. In the midst of the commotion, the citizens began to voice that whatever happens, they will defeat the evil tonight that is Michael Myers. Suddenly a patient who was thought to be a resident of Michael Myers entered the hospital to ask for help, because the residents were tired of Michael, so they chased after a person who turned out to be not Michael Myers. Karen realized this. She tried to help him by hiding him in a room, but because of the anger of the residents who were already so angry, the man ended up committing suicide by jumping down to his death. Because of the chaos that occurred at the hospital, Laurie finally finds out that Michael is still alive. Feeling summoned by Michael's resurrection, Laurie leaves the hospital by injecting painkillers, even though Karen forbids it and remains in hospital rest. Return to Michael's former home, where the couple is enjoying a beautiful evening. Suddenly they were interrupted by a noise from behind, which turned out to be Michael. They were finally killed one by one in a very heinous way. While warning the Haddonfield community to stay inside their houses, Marion, Vanessa, and her husband Marcus are killed by Michael. Lindsay escapes and is found alive by Tommy, Lonnie, Allison, and Cameron. The group map out Michael's path and his victim's location and deduce that he is heading towards his childhood home. Tommy takes Lindsay to the hospital and reunites with former Haddonfield Sheriff Lee Brackett, whose daughter Annie was killed in 1978, and informs Laurie about Michael's survival. Across town, Michael murders the current owners of his home as Laurie prepares to leave the hospital. Lance Tovely, a fugitive convict from Smith's Grove Psychiatric Hospital and Vanessa's car driver, who escaped alongside Michael when their bus crashed, arrives and is mistaken for Michael. Tommy's mob pursue him through the hospital before Karen realizes that he is not Michael. Despite her attempts to calm the mob and help Lance, he jumps out a window to his death. Laurie urges Karen to work with Tommy and Brackett to hunt Michael down. Elsewhere, Lonnie heads in alone to Michael's home and is killed. Allison and Cameron rush inside and find his corpse before being attacked by Michael, who murders Cameron. Allison and her boyfriend are shocked when they reach Michael's former home and find that the owner is dead. Then Michael attacks him and his boyfriend, but unfortunately for Dylan, who is finally killed by Michael. Karen and the citizens lower Michael into a trap. They manage to surround him and then ganged up on Michael until he lay dead. As Michael prepares to kill Allison, Karen stabs him in the back with a pitchfork, steals his mask, and taunts him to follow her. She leads Michael into Tommy's mob, who swarm, attack, and seemingly kill him. When the mob disperses, Michael recovers and massacres the entire mob, including Tommy and Brackett. Back at Michael's home, Karen goes upstairs to investigate while Allison receives medical attention. Michael appears and stabs Karen to death in Judith Myers' old bedroom as Laurie stares out of her hospital room. That's all the recap. Don't forget to give us likes, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.